Now, the world's most important video game show, E3, has been taking place in Los Angeles this week, and at least one of the blockbuster titles is offering a provocative take on Brexit Britain. Here's Mark Chislak from the BBC's tech programme, Click.
Watch Dogs Legion is set in a post-Brexit dystopian near-future London.
Had a good run there for a while. Now it's all riots, bombings, and people thrown in cages like animals.
A bleak surveillance state where abuse of technology has led to huge unemployment, a privatised NHS, and massive levels of civil unrest. It's not a particularly flattering picture of Britain. Before E3, I went behind the scenes at its developers Ubisoft's studios in Toronto, Canada.
The Brexit vote happened when we were a year and a half into development. We'd already settled on London as a location, and a big important decision for us was to, address it head on and say, yep, this is just part of our world and our backstory. Brexit in our game is not sort of the cause of the problems that we're depicting in the game world. Brexit, the causes of Brexit really are the causes of the problems in our world, and that's really how we address it.
Here at E3, Watch Dogs, despite or perhaps because of its themes, has gone down exceedingly well. But games taking their inspiration from headlines in the British press has caused some to wonder if this is a reflection of how the rest of the world views the UK's current situation.
We have video games about the apocalypse, we have nuclear disasters, we have world wars, and now we have Brexit, which really means that the rest of the world is looking at Brexit as a legitimate disaster. And that's quite fascinating in the fact that it's something that we should be taking seriously. It's not something that's just happening on our stage, it's happening on the world stage, and that's particularly very interesting and kind of scary.
Art, movies, literature and music all tackle difficult and challenging subject matter. Often, it's a way of helping us better understand our world. And now it seems the same is true of video games.
How seriously should we take this, Toby Young, the idea of the game being based on post-Brexit Britain?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a Brexit supporter, the temptation is to become all buffed and tuftonish about this and outraged that they're portraying Brexit as being such a disaster when actually, so far, no disaster has materialised. I think it's symptomatic of something I wrote about in The Spectator recently, which is the migration of what Richard Hofstadter, an American political scientist, called the paranoid style. The paranoid style, these feverish apocalyptic fantasies, these conspiracy theories, used to be something which was true of the populist right. But since Brexit and since Trump's victory in 2016, the paranoid style, these paranoid apocalyptic fever dreams seem to have migrated. These conspiracy theories have migrated to the left, and this feels like an example of that.
Do you agree, Aaron?
No, I think, the piece was quite keen to highlight that Brexit isn't the primary cause of that video game. And I do think over the next several decades, we're going to see a wave of crises. I talked about them already. Ageing, climate change, automation, the continued breakdown of neoliberalism. And it will lead to, I think, quite dystopian outcomes. I don't think like that, because I think we'll probably increasingly exhibit features like the Chinese state, where you have all-seeing consumer surveillance synergised with state surveillance. Your payment system is also a social network which can fine you because of face recognition. So I doubt the explosions and all the kind of interesting costumes, but I do think that confluence of crises, meeting big data in a potentially authoritarian state, authoritarian form of capitalism, could be quite concerning. And I'll just finish with this. In 2015, SpaceX landed the first ever autonomously piloted first stage rocket, December 2015. 2 months earlier, Alan Kurdi was washed up on the beaches of Bodrum, a 3-year-old child trying to come into Europe. So we don't need to imagine the fever dreams, the speculations of science fiction. That dystopia of a future which isn't evenly distributed is already here. The question is for people on the left, and I hope people on the right as well, in whose interests? And what that kind of speculative fiction allows us is to say, well, the world is really going to change. Do we want to change it for the better or for the worse?
What do you think, Toby? Do you think that's true? I mean, do you think that gaming and the world of gaming is the right forum, or can take these sort of serious themes and put it into any sort of context?
Well, I mean, it doesn't feel particularly serious. And I think the idea that neoliberalism is propelling us towards this dystopian, apocalyptic nightmare future, I would take issue with.
I said it's one crisis amongst several.
I think you know, something's happened in the last 300 years to raise everyone out of the squalor we lived in for millennia before that. What is it? It's capitalism, and the miracle of capitalism keeps on giving. Since 1990, over 1 billion people across the world have been raised out of extreme poverty.
But it sounds like you are taking it seriously. You are trying to formulate an argument to counter what's being said in this dystopian game.
It feels like another manifestation of a dystopian satire emerging from mass culture, but none of these dystopian satires have actually materialised.
Right, I mean, it's big industry, though, isn't it?
It is.
Taking on Brexit in the way that the creative director says, however, the causes of Brexit, which are real and important things, are the causes of the problems in our world, and we've turned those problems up to 11.
Well, I mean, as your film said, it's not the first game to emerge from the headlines, and it certainly won't be the last. I think any controversy might actually come from the fact that the makers of it seem to be trying to distance themselves from the fact it's pegged to the causes of Brexit. That might cause a bit of a stir, you know, with those who disagree. I mean, how amazing it would be if gaming was the thing that united the left and right eventually. Who knows? It could happen.
What, put these two together?
Could create a utopia for us all.
Miata, what do you
Well,
think?
look, I actually think it was interesting that the creator said that it was about the causes of Brexit. And actually, I think culture, whether it's gaming, whether it's different forms of the arts, trying to kind of engage people in the issues is really, really helpful. And for me, you know, it may not be the dystopia, but the underlying drivers of Brexit, you know, yes, there were people who voted for the European Union, but for a lot of people, it was despair and discontent with the economic system, with an economic system that, you know, still benefits a tiny proportion of people where people aren't feeling the benefit in the majority. And the problem in all of the debate over the last 3 years is that we've got away from that. And we're not talking about those issues, and we're not talking about how we need to respond. We're talking about the ins and outs of whether we leave or how we leave, and that is a problem. And if it takes the gaming industry to sort of shine a spotlight on that, thank you very much.